He is risen, and he's behind you. The dust motes danced in the afternoon sun, thick as pollen. They swirled in the single shaft of light piercing the gloom of my childhood home, a beam aimed directly at the faded floral wallpaper I hadn't seen in over a decade. 10 years and now I was back. 10 years since I'd escaped this place, and 5 months since Mark I pushed the thought away, the familiar sting of grief threatening to drown me again. I had to focus. Boxes were piled high, half unpacked, a testament to my dwindling motivation. This was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to breathe again. But the air here felt stale, heavy with memories I tried so hard to bury. The house groaned, a low, unsettling sound that echoed through the empty rooms. It always did that. Dad used to say it was just settling, but Mom always looked nervous when it happened. "Welcome home, Sarah," a voice said, startling me. Pastor David stood in the doorway, his tall frame casting a long shadow. He was older, heavier than I remembered, but his eyes still held that unsettling intensity. He'd been our pastor since I was little and always had a particular interest in my well-being. "Pastor," I said, forcing a smile. "I didn't hear you knock, just wanted to see how you were settling in. Martha told me you were back." He stepped inside, his presence filling the small space. "This house, it misses you, child." I shivered despite myself. "It's good to be back," I lied. He nodded, his gaze sweeping the room. "Hard to believe Easter's just around the corner. A time for rebirth, for new beginnings." He paused, his eyes locking onto mine. "A time for resurrection." His words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. I excused myself, saying I needed to unpack. He lingered for a moment longer, then left with a final, unsettling smile. That night, the house was colder than I remembered. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. I lay in my old bed, unable to sleep, the silence broken only by the creaks and groans of the house. Then I heard it, a whisper just barely audible coming from downstairs. I held my breath, listening intently. It came again, closer this time. My name. I told myself it was the wind playing tricks, but the feeling of being watched was undeniable. I pulled the covers over my head, trying to block out the sound, the feeling, the fear. The next day, I went to see Martha. She lived next door, a tiny, wizened woman who'd been a fixture in this town for as long as I could remember. She knew everything, everyone. "Martha," I said, standing on her porch, "can I talk to you?" She peered at me through the screen door, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Sarah, come in, child. I've been expecting you." Her house smelled of potpourri and dust, a musty scent that clung to the air. She led me to the living room, where a crucifix hung above the fireplace and religious pamphlets were stacked on every surface. "Pastor David tells me you're having a hard time," she said, settling into a rocking chair. I'm not sleeping well," I said. "I keep hearing things." Her eyes narrowed. "This house, it's old. It remembers things that should stay buried." "What do you mean?" she sighed. "This town, it has a history, a dark history. Before Pastor David, there were others, people who believed in different things. Things they shouldn't have." "Like what?" She hesitated, then leaned closer. They say they tried to bring someone back. Someone powerful, but they failed, or so we thought." I laughed nervously. "Martha, that's just a story, is it?" she said, her eyes fixed on mine. "Things are stirring, Sarah. I can feel it. Something's coming. You need to be strong. You need to have faith." I left her house feeling more uneasy than ever. The whispers, the feeling of being watched, Martha's warnings. It was all too much. I needed to find out what was going on. I started researching the town's history, spending hours at the local library, sifting through old newspapers and town records. I found mentions of a religious sect that had been active in the late 1800s, a group that practiced strange rituals and believed in the power of resurrection. They disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only rumors and whispers. The more I dug, the more I realized that something wasn't right. The town felt different, the people off. They were overly friendly, overly pious. Their eyes held a strange, unsettling glint. One afternoon, I saw the drifter. He'd been hanging around town for weeks, a gaunt, unkempt man with haunted eyes. He always seemed to be watching me, lurking in the shadows. This time, he was standing across the street from my house, staring at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I hurried inside, locking the door behind me. I peeked through the curtains, but he was gone. That night, the whispers were louder, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from inside the house, from the walls themselves. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys and ran outside, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere. I drove to the church, hoping to find some comfort, some answers. The doors were unlocked, the interior dimly lit. I walked inside, the silence broken only by the sound of my own footsteps. Then I heard voices, coming from the back room. I crept closer, peering through the crack in the door. Pastor David stood in the center of the room, surrounded by a group of townspeople. They were chanting in a language I didn't understand, their faces contorted in expressions of religious fervor. In the center of the circle, on a makeshift altar, lay a body, covered in a white sheet. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. They turned, their eyes locking onto mine. Pastor David smiled, a slow, chilling smile. "Sarah," he said, his voice smooth and menacing, "you weren't supposed to see this." I turned and ran, the chanting growing louder behind me. I burst out of the church and into the night, my heart pounding in my chest. They were coming after me. I ran through the woods, the branches whipping at my face, the ground uneven beneath my feet. I could hear them behind me, their voices echoing through the trees. I stumbled and fell, scraping my knees. I looked up and saw him, the drifter. He stood in front of me, blocking my path. "He is risen," he whispered, his eyes wide and vacant, "and he's behind you." I turned, and there he was, Pastor David, his eyes glowing with an unholy light. He reached out to me, his hand outstretched. "Come, Sarah," he said, "join us, be reborn." I screamed, but no sound came out. I was trapped. There was nowhere to run. I woke up in my bed. The sun was shining, birds were singing. It was all a dream, a terrible, vivid dream, but the feeling of dread lingered. I got out of bed and went downstairs. The house was silent, too silent. I went into the kitchen and poured myself a cup of coffee. As I turned, I saw it. A symbol carved into the wooden table. A symbol I'd seen in the old books at the library. The symbol of the religious sect. The symbol of resurrection. And then I heard the whisper. Closer this time, right behind me. "He is risen." I whirled around, but there was nothing there. Only the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. But I knew. He was here. He was always here. I ran out of the house, got in my car and drove. I drove as fast as I could, as far as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the highway, until I could see the lights of the city in the distance. I pulled over to the side of the road, exhausted and terrified. I looked in the rearview mirror, and that is when I saw it, in the back seat, a figure. Pale skin, white gown, eyes black as night, smiling. "He is risen," it whispered, reaching out for me. I put the car in drive and floored it. I don't know where I am going, but I know that I can't stop, I can't sleep, I can't let him catch me. And the worst part is I can still hear him whispering. "He is risen," it said, closer still. "He is risen, and he's behind you."